floor, and there's a little bit of agriculture there for a family or two maybe. But in Lot's day, there were tens of thousands of people living here. It's very hard to imagine that today. But from the cemetery, we know there were thousands and thousands of people living in this area. It's estimated there's 500,000 burials in the Babadra cemetery. It's just unbelievable. On the right is a view down into the Wadi Kerak, and again you get some idea of the kind of a lunar landscape in this area. Very desolate today. Now we're inside the city. On the left we're looking here toward the eastern wall. That was the city wall running along there. All of this has been eroded away as the rains run down from the hills to the east and just wash over the site and erode it winter after winter. So much of the interior of the city has been eroded away. On the right you see the southern wall, very clearly demarcated there. The walls are very thick, something like 7 meters wide, 22, 23 feet wide. Here's my colleague Gary Byers standing on the wall, just kind of indicating the width of it. And over on the right, I'm standing at the inside face of the wall, and you can see how high it's preserved yet today. Now, from the Bible, we can work out the date of the destruction to about 2070 BC, 4,000 years ago. There's the wall still standing today. Now they get almost no rainfall down in the valley area. The rainfall is up on the plateau to the east. And so there's a good state of preservation there. There's not a lot of rainfall to ruin things and wash it away except what runs down from the plateau. But I was surprised. I was there, 79, 78 I guess it was. And in 79 I was there, and then just wasn't there again until 2000, and it looked basically the same after all those years because of the lack of rainfall. Now on the left is the western wall. Again, you can see how wide this wall is, and there's a gateway up in this area here. Incidentally, that's Steve Austin right there. Many of you know Steve. He came along with us when we went there in 2000. We went mainly to do some filming for a video that we're producing on Sodom and Gomorrah. And Steve went along to do the geology and check the geology of the area. And I think he's produced a little presentation that he does on these places. Well, on the right, you can see where the gate went through the wall, here and here. And it was just a simple opening in the wall, nothing fancy. But you notice here that it's blocked up. Well, the excavations there in the gateway have shown that there was a fire that took place in this area, and that there was some destruction. So this must have been the result of an attack against the city, when the gateway was burned and the enemy was able to get through the gate. And from the dating of that event, we can relate it to Genesis 14 and those Mesopotamian kings that came and fought against the cities of the plain. And the final destruction was just, maybe 20 years or so following that. So there's actually 2 destructions at these places, and it relates very nicely with the Bible once again. Well, rather than rebuild this western gateway, they simply blocked it up, as we see here. And then they built a new gate over on the northeast side of the site. And so here's our gate over to the northeast. Again, very simple, simply 2 towers, as it were. The wall would have been running along this way, and these are just 2 towers with an entryway between the 2 towers. So this was the final gateway into the city at the time it was destroyed. You see some other walls here. These are earlier buildings that happened to be there, And when they built the new gateway, they just built it right on top of those earlier structures. And this is a wall that's connected with the gateway, so you'd come along here and then just come between those two towers on into the city. And over on the right, we see that area, the east tower right here behind me, and then the west tower over here. And these are those earlier walls that have been uncovered. If you remember the story of the angels going to Sodom to warn Lot, when they approached the city to enter through the gateway, there they found Lot sitting in the gate of the city. Well, this must have been that gate where Lot was sitting. It was the only gate into the city at the time it was destroyed. And so Lot had moved up, evidently, in life and was sitting in the gate. That's kind of a sign of a very important person. The merchants did their business there. The king often sat in the gate. And so Lot evidently was part of city life at this point in time. Well, the Bible tells us in Genesis 19 that the Lord rained down burning sulfur on Sodom and Gomorrah from the Lord out of the heavens. Thus he overthrew those cities and the entire plain, including all those living in the cities and also the vegetation in the land. Again, a very detailed description of this destruction. Notice that God overturned those cities. And this indicates earthquake activity. When you read about the material raining down out of the sky, you think, well, that sounds like a volcanic eruption. But there's absolutely no evidence for any volcanic activity in this area. So it appears from the wording of the text that there was earthquake activity. God used an earthquake. Now this Hebrew word that's translated here, burning sulfur, the Hebrew word is gophrith. And it actually is related to petroleum products. It's a loan word from Akkadian, from the language of Mesopotamia, and there it's used for oil, bitumen, and in fact oil containing sulfur. And probably that's what's being referred to here is a petroleum substance which had sulfur in it, which of course would burn. Now everywhere you go at Baba Dra and also Numira, which we'll go to next, there's evidence of burning. Both places were destroyed by fire. Here I'm in this little sanctuary area, a little small temple there, and right there you see the ash from the destruction of the city. And like I say, it's just everywhere. Now, the most dramatic evidence comes from the cemetery at Baba Dra. And here we see the difference between the valley area, the plain, and then the higher level plateau here where the city